Hello everyone. In today's video, I'd like to show a technique using the survey tools within Civil 3D to first import a control file into the survey database, and then after that import a raw data file on top of that control file and have it auto-translate or rectify onto the control. In this case, our conventional raw file was shot in local coordinates and it referenced those control files, and we would like to have that jump on top of the control. So let's take a look. First, a quick tour of what we have. We have just an empty drawing. If I go to settings, we do have a coordinate system, Alabama State Plane West. And let's take a look at our survey files. To start with, we have a GPS control file that we're going to import, just a text file. You can see static points. Next, I have my raw RW5, TDS RW5 from the field. Notice this is an older RW5. If you're not sure what I'm talking about there, I did a post a few weeks ago on importing RW5 and some of the implications. So I'd ask you to go back and take a look at that if you're interested. But I have an RW5 here that I stored my 0.3000, but notice the coordinates it's stored with, it's local. So in this case, the conventional file or the raw file was shot either before we had the GPS coordinates or during the collection of the coordinates. Notice here on the backside, we backsat 0.2000, but 0.2000 doesn't have a coordinate yet. So in TDS, what we did in the field is we had an assumed backsat of 315 degrees azimuth. So that's the way this was shot. And then that other 0.1000 is shot and set up on also in the file. So we converted that to an FBK file that you see here. Here's the FBK file. Where did that come from? That came from here under the Create Ground Data, Survey Data Collection link, Conversions, Convert File Format. Again, my blog post from a few weeks ago shows that in detail. So let's get started. Notice here I have a survey database I've just created. I'm going to go to the Import Events and right-click Import Survey Data. Double check with the Edit Survey Database settings. Double check that my distance is US foot. If you'd like to set a coordinate system here, you can. I'm going to go next. We're going to do point file because we have our static control needs to go in first. Here it is. Notice my format. Looks good. Northern eastern elevation. Next. Okay, so I'm going to show you first what not to do. Again, just because it's such a common error that you could make and it's totally recoverable. But I just want to show you something that happens a lot here. So first of all, just know that it's best to go ahead and create a network here because I'm going to bring in conventional data here in a second and I want it all to be together. So that's the first thing to note. But when I go to create a network, notice here, I'm going to just call this local. Okay, so when I hit OK, it drops the local network there. Notice the none is still highlighted in gray. So because I just hit local, I just assumed it's ready to go. So I'm going to hit next. And notice here under point type, this third row, this is grayed out. I can't do anything here. And that'll be important in just a second. But I'd like you to see what happens here. So we're going to hit next, or finish rather. Here are my three coordinates. There's 3000, which was the first setup, backsat 2000 here. And then we traverse down to 1000 at the end to finish the survey in the field. So let's bring that data in. So I'm going to go to Import Events again, Import Survey Data. Next, this is going to be Fieldbook or FBK. Select my FBK that I just showed you. Again, I'm going to select the network local. That looks good. I'm going to get a point error here. The first point, 3000, it says that it already sees that. We're just going to hit ignore. That's fine. So ignore. And I'll close that warning dialog. So let's take a look. In general, the data is in the right spot, so it did at least rectify up to this area, but I see a problem immediately. So this data here, this should be, you can see overhead power. This is edge of road, EOR. I don't have my labels turned on, but just hover and I can see. So these should be over here on the road. And you can see we started deviating, so we've got a bad angle somewhere. Well, let's see what happened here. I'm going to go to my network over here on the tool space. And I'm going to select directions. So what happened, you can see 0.3000 to 2000 because it didn't really know that 2000 was any more special than 3000. So it knows that 3000 was a start point, but after that, it doesn't really know. So as far as the direction, it's not going to automatically take the bearing between 3000 and 2000. What it did is it used my assumed bearing here, or my assumed azimuth. So we can go through here, and there are some tricks to correct it here, and I'm not going to go through that now. You could also go back to that FBK file, and you could actually type in the real direction. I could do an inverse between 3000 and 2000, type it in that FBK, and just import just like we did. But let's talk about a more proper technique here. So I'm going to go and delete these import events. And delete this network. So we're going to kind of start clean here. So now we're going to start over. Import events, import survey data. There's my database. I'm going to start with text file, point file. There's my control, northern eastern elevation, looks good. Now here's the difference. So this time we're going to say local 2, that's my new network. And the key here is to highlight and make sure it's blue. Sounds simple, but it is the key here. We hit next. Now notice the difference. I can select point type as control. So finish. So there's the points again. That looks good. Now we're going to go to import survey data to grab the FBK data. Field book. Here's the file. Next. We're going to select local 2. Oh, that's fine for now. Ignore. Close the panorama, and notice now where my points are lying. Right on the road as they should. And if I go now down to the network and I select directions, you can see that it held point 2000 as a control point, and it saw in my raw file that I was set up I started setting up on point 3000 with a backside into 2000, and so it computed my azimuth, which was actually around 305 degrees north azimuth instead of my assumed 315. So the goal today was to show you how to bring in some conventional data that was shot in local coordinates, bring that and automatically rectify it onto control points that have already been brought into the survey database. I hope this has been beneficial. Have a great day.